What's up everyone, my name is Soren Iverson and I'm a product designer currently working at Cash App. Today I'm going to share with you how much money product designers make. There are many more factors than just a salary, and I want to share with you how all of these things factor together to make up your compensation. One thing to note before we start, I'm focusing primarily on product designers who work in startups or technology companies in the United States. Agency salaries or people working in other parts of the world will see different levels of compensation. Let's get started. I want to quickly touch on an important principle in job hunting and compensation expectations: supply and demand. Digital product designers are a relatively new type of designer, and it's exploding in popularity. I've spoken with a few founders lately who have said they have more trouble finding talented designers than they do engineers. This being the case, there's strong demand for capable designers and a very low supply. This means you can often negotiate better compensation. On the flip side, as more and more talented people enter this field of work, there will be more supply and the ability to negotiate may go down. There's always a market for good people, but there are a lot of external factors that can influence how easy it is to get a job and one that pays well. Now let's look at where I look for compensation information. A lot of people start with sites like Glassdoor, Indeed, Salary.com, and ZipRecruiter. At times, sites like these will confuse app or web product designers with people who design literal physical products with CAD programs. This career has different expectations around pay and compensation. Something like Built-in is going to give you a slightly better sense of compensation for product design jobs based on where you live because they do more work with startups that are hiring across the country. While Built-in can be helpful, I've found the best resources when looking at tech jobs specifically are levels.fyi and blind.so. Levels is a site where people can upload and verify their offer letters, and companies ranging from Meta to Google to Stripe and so many more have information on it. The nice thing here is you can see the split of base compensation versus stock compensation and sometimes bonuses as well. Blind is essentially Reddit for people who work in tech. This is great because you have an anonymous forum where people discuss compensation, culture, and what's happening internally at a company. I'm a lurker, not a poster, but I've learned a lot through this platform. Now that we know where to look, let's check out the average salary for product designers in the US. According to Built-in's website, that number is $103K, with an additional $11.5K in cash compensation, which comes out to about $114,000 per year. The median is $93K, but it can go as low as $45 and as high as $235. This means the average base salary and cash compensation for a product designer is almost double the average US annual household income, which as of this video is $67,000. However, don't be fooled by those numbers. Now we need to talk about take-home pay. Let's say you have an average salary of $103K like shown on Built-in. Unfortunately, that's not how much money you actually take home. ADP is a payroll provider that has a free calculator on their website that lets you look at how much money you'd actually take home after taxes. In California, a bi-weekly paycheck from a $103K salary comes out to about $2,700. You're paying for things like federal income tax, Social Security, Medicare, state income tax, and disability. Now look at Texas. Because there is no state income tax or disability tax, you'll take home about $300 more per paycheck than in California. Keep in mind that companies often have pay bands that are established for different parts of the US. For example, if you live in San Francisco, you'll likely make more than someone doing the same job in Denver. However, there are some companies that have done away with salary bands based on geography entirely. I think Medium is one of them. One way companies incentivize people to join them is with a signing bonus or annual bonus program. This is good for the employee because it gives them immediate access to their money. It's good for the employer because they're not paying as much for additional stock compensation or base salary. One thing to note is that most employers have a clause in their signing bonus contracts that allow them to claw back the bonus if you're not at the company for at least a year or whatever time they specify. Now let's look at stock options. Stock option is essentially an opportunity, but not a right or guarantee, to purchase stock at a future date for an agreed upon price. As someone who has received stock options from a few different startups, they often end up worthless unless you get in really early and the company does extremely well. You hear the stories of people like David Cho, who made an extraordinary amount of money off a stock option deal. The news likes to focus on these stories, and it's easy to think that you can get rich off stock options in the same way. A good example of this is WeWork employees. Back in 2019, they were set to go public. Many employees were preparing for a financial windfall that would be in the millions. But when their partner SoftBank pulled out of the deal and things were were found out about their business model, share price ultimately collapsed, and a lot of people lost out on a lot of money. I had a brief stint at a company that raised $2.1 billion over 13 rounds, only to be sold for less than $45 million years later. Moral of the story, while stock options sound nice, they won't pay your bills for the foreseeable future, and I usually don't even count them as income when they're on an offer letter. Now let's look at restricted stock units. A true form of income can come from stocks. These are usually referred to as restricted stock units. It's a fundamentally different form of compensation than stock options. RSUs are an awarded number of shares that come with conditions that include a vesting period before you receive them. Also, the share price is usually connected to your start date. If you start when a company's stock is high, you can potentially lose money and actually owe taxes on the stock that you're paid. On the other hand, if the stock price is low, you can make a lot of money on your RSUs as the price goes up. Let's look at 3 different vesting schedules for RSUs. Last time I checked, Lyft vests their RSUs on a quarterly basis over 4 years. This means that if you had a 4-year vesting schedule where you got $100K in stock from Lyft, every 3 months you would receive a payment of $6,250. One thing to note, that payment amount is variable based on share price fluctuation. On the other side of the coin is Amazon. They give you 5% of their RSUs after the first year, 15% after the second year, and then 20% every 6 months for the next 2 years. This creates a much stronger incentive to stay and perform well within your first couple of years, otherwise you're going to miss out on a huge financial opportunity. Now let's look at the typical 4-year cliff approach. When I was at Square, this was how it was handled. If you received $100,000 in RSUs over 4 years, you would get a lump payment of $25K after the first year. Then it's similar to Lyft in that you get payments quarterly for the next 3 years. It's a nice balance between Lyft and Amazon's approaches. The performance of a company's stock price can have a huge impact on the value of your RSUs. Let's look at an example where someone was getting paid $200,000 a year. 25% of that was in RSUs, which is $50K a year. If the stock price goes up 50% after the first year, then in year 2, their salary will actually be 33% RSUs because they'll be getting paid $75K a year in stock. On the other hand, if the stock goes down 50% after the first year, only 14% of their salary will be made up of stock rather than the initial 25, because the value of the RSUs they'll be making every year will go from 50K to 25K. You'll owe taxes on the stock you sell, even if you lost money from the initial grant price. RSUs are worth something unless the stock price dips so much that you actually owe money when tax season comes, or you leave before your vesting date and don't earn anything. Let's take everything we've learned and look at a few different potential compensation scenarios. Let's say you're getting paid $200K a year. If that was all in base salary, the way you're getting paid looks pretty simple. Now what if you're paid partially in RSUs? Maybe you're optimistic about the company's future, so almost 30% of your income comes from their stock price. Some of this will be paid bi-weekly, but the RSUs will not. Finally, we have an offer that includes a $10K signing bonus. After the first year, your total comp will actually go down since that bonus does not repeat. This doesn't account for any changes in the stock price. It also doesn't account for any raises that you might receive in the first year that you're there. I went on Levels FYI and looked at the average mid-level designer compensation at a few different companies. Amazon pays $202.7K, LinkedIn pays $206.3K, Meta pays $215K, and the highest was Google at $239.4K per year. One thing to note on all of these numbers is that there are ranges, and the internal systems used to assign levels to designers during the hiring process can vary a lot. You could be an L5 at Google and make far more or far less than the $240K you see here. It depends on how you interview, your negotiation abilities, how long you've been in the industry, and a lot more. If you want to learn more, I highly recommend visiting Levels' website and looking at the companies you're interested in. One thing to note, I am in no way endorsed by Levels, I'm just a big fan of their product. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you now have a better understanding of how compensation works for digital product designers. Feel free to drop questions in the comments, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. I'm Soren, and I'll see you in the next video.